Hey everybody, welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and in this episode we're taking a look at a Diamond Select statue that actually came out last year. It's a little bit old, but I never got a chance to look at it until now, and I am so excited to have this one in my collection. And I think you're going to want it for yours too. Today from Diamond Select, we're looking at their Marvel Select Venom PVC figure diorama. And I gotta tell you guys, I think this is gonna be like one of my all-time favorites. I mean, there's a reason why I wanted this since last year, and yeah, just my initial glimpse, I already got like the goosebumps thinking about this guy. So real fast, I wanna talk about this packaging here before we bust him open. And the box is like any of the Diamond Select boxes that you get for any of their PVC pieces. It has a very simple black and kind of bluish purple color scheme on it. The blue and purple are basically there just to highlight some of the font and some of the windows, as well as this big Spider-Man font that just kind of is there to remind you that he's from this universe, but it's really not that important. But one of the best things about the packaging is all the windows you have that let you see right into this guy here. So you got a big window on the front, we've got one on this side, one on the other side, and of course, as always, the Diamond Select sunroof. As for the back of the packaging, if there's anything to nitpick about, it's probably this, because unfortunately the color scheme is so dark that the Venom statue kind of blends into it and makes it a little hard to see. And I think they knew that too, because they added a little bit of a purple haze behind the Venom statue, but still it's super dark. And he definitely gets a little bit lost among all that stuff there. But besides that, we have a very nice bio on the left side, tells us a little bit about who Venom is in case you didn't already know. And it also lets us know who designed and sculpted this piece. And this was made by Caesar and Alterton. Caesar and Alterton are two of my favorite sculptors who work for Diamond. They are the dynamic duo when it comes to making stuff for Diamond, and that really just sets a high bar right away. So I'm even more excited now to take a look at this piece knowing that those two guys worked on it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get our Venom out of the box and take a closer look at him from all angles. Alright, and here is our Venom out of the packaging, ready to go. This guy is awesome looking. I'm so beyond excited to get this piece here. So let's just go ahead and kick things off and start with a quick rotation of this guy so you can get a whole good solid look from every angle of this Venom. I mean, wow, like, yeah, I don't know how I missed out on this. Actually, I do know how I missed out on it. It's because it basically became very scarce and very hard to find very quickly when it was first released. But wow, like this might be one of the best statues that Diamond has done ever. And, you know, we've looked at a lot of pieces on this channel, and I don't say that lightly. But yeah, I mean, from every angle, this is amazing. This is like more than I could ever hope for. And it's such an interesting way to do this. Like, I could easily see this design being used for like a resin piece even. Like, this has got some high-end stuff to it, and that's the crazy thing, is that it is a PVC piece, meaning it's actually quite affordable. And that, to me, is like one of the greatest strengths about this really amazing PVC diorama. So let's go ahead and start by taking a closer look at this guy here. And let's go back up top here and talk about this likeness. So the question is, does this look like an Eddie Brock Venom? And oh man, that's the cool thing about this piece, is that it's not just a Venom, it's Eddie Brock with Venom. So as you guys can see here, the symbiote is forming around him, as we've already talked about here. The symbiote's already forming around him, but you can still see part of Eddie underneath all the Venom symbiote. And that is, I think, such a cool thing to do with this piece. And there's a lot of detail I should add, too, in the symbiote and how it's kind of like wrapping itself around Eddie. You know, there's a lot of really cool little bits and pieces here. So as far as like Eddie's look itself, Eddie, he kind of looks like Dolph Lundgren a little bit to me. It's kind of like the first thing that comes to mind when I see this here. It's most definitely not, but it does feel like very much the 90s style Eddie Brock, where he's just like enormous from doing nothing but bench presses in a sewer every single day, 24/7. He's just this enormous looking dude. And not only that, he's got all this wonderful little detail in the Venom parts as well. I mean, you know, we can actually see like the tongue and some of the anatomy underneath the tongue, little teeth. And I should add too, it's also a different texture as far as paint goes. You know, it's actually a little bit more shiny and a little bit more different there. Hopefully you guys can see that. But yeah, there's a lot more going on here. Now, you know, as far as like Venom's face, Eddie Brock was not exactly the most like interesting guy to look at as a human being, I guess. He's just a big blonde dude. But, you know, what's really cool is the fact that we're capturing him mid-transformation. And it's really nicely done. And again, really solid paint job. What I think is like one of the more interesting parts about this statue is actually the eyes. And you guys can see that, you know, we have Venom's eye on this side, we have Eddie Brock's eye on that side. Both are treated with very similar amount of detail. So it has a lot of realism and a lot of great storytelling to this piece here. And that's what you get with the Caesar and Alterton piece, because those guys always go all out, and this is no exception. And hopefully you guys can see too, just a bit of look at the other side of the Venom face and how it's just kind of wrapping itself around all the little slimy tendrils that are sticking out all over him. So much went into this piece. It's amazing to me they're able to keep the price point down with all of this stuff going on here. So let's go ahead and just start kind of taking a look at the rest of the body as well, because there's so much happening. So the symbiote is very rapidly overtaking Eddie, and you've got, like I said, all these slimy bits just sticking out all over him. I really, really enjoy this section here with all the bits that are coming from his leg and his arm that are like connected together. And likewise too, I really, really dig this section here on his shoulder with, again, all this stuff, just all the symbiote just creeping up around his head to form everything that's happening here. What a great idea, and it's so well executed. Even if we take a look at the hand as well on this side here, you can see similar stuff is happening, where it's just taking over him piece by piece. From the back, it's also really cool. A lot of times the backs aren't the most interesting on these statues because all the action's happening in the front, but in this case, no, same thing. I mean, besides the fact that you have this giant classic Caesar and Alderton muscled up dude anatomy here and his great big physique, you also have, again, all these tendrils springing out from him and just becoming the costume, forming the costume, and some great detail on the neck, on the arms, and the shoulder. I mean, I really do like this section here. This is just an additional piece, and it's pretty firm, I should add. Like you can see there is flexibility in this bit here, but as far as it, coming off or falling and breaking or whatever, I think you'd be pretty okay with this. I mean, again, don't let it fall from a great height; it will snap, but it feels like this material is good enough that it would probably have some bounce and survive to it. But point being, it's not the most precarious bit of plastic I would expect to see in a piece like this. So that is all amazing, and as we move down a little bit further towards the base, you can see how his legs are doing. And likewise, those are also covered with all sorts of symbiote goo popping out all over him. You can see it coming from the ground, dripping off of his legs, both legs actually. In fact, you can see there's puddles of the symbiote here. That's what's kind of interesting too, is you got puddles of the symbiote on the ground, and you've got little tendrils shooting up from his legs, and just, man, there's so much happening. It's really fun to look at. I mean, that's what's really nice about it. It's just really fun to look at. Again, the physique, the vascularity, if you will, of all these guys here, it's really tremendous. I'm just digging this from every angle. There is no bad angle on this piece. And what I add too, there actually is some interesting texture with this statue here. You guys can see in the legs, and you could feel it if you have one for yourself, but it's not just smooth. It actually is kind of a rougher texture to make it up the symbiote. It almost feels a little bit like leather, in fact. That's how I would kind of describe it. A little bit like leather-like. And going back up to the upper body here as well, as far as texture goes, the balance between the smooth skin that is, the actual exposed flesh versus the symbiote, the leathery, rougher feel of the symbiote. It's really nice. I mean, you got this Swiss cheese hole thing going on too. It also makes it very nice for the tactile sensation. It feels really good to touch it. And really, this is a piece that I think, it's cool just to leave it on and, make it be a statue, but I feel like this piece really is kind of best enjoyed as almost like an interactive art piece, because you've got all these wonderful little things to touch and feel, and that's awesome. That really just adds, I think, a lot of value, and it also adds a lot to the statue, because now we've got more things for light to touch and reflect off of to make better shadows and cool things like that. So it's stellar already top to bottom. And some of the finer details here that I really like are his hands. Venom has those really cool hands. I've always liked the way his gloves are. I'm going to call them gloves, even though I know they're, again, symbiote stuff. But I always liked how they looked. And same thing here. Very cool looking. I like the pose of the fingers. These kind of real angry, venomy fingers. You got the same thing on the opposite side. Again, just digging all these bits that are kind of almost defying physics, because they are an alien symbiote after all. This is out of this world. So it makes sense that they're kind of just doing whatever they want to do. Let's spend some time talking about this base as well, which is really exciting too. It's fairly simple at a first glance, but then there's a lot of nice details in there. It's, as typical with most diamond pieces, it's generally a pile of rubble. It's either, going to be a cityscape, a pile of rubble, a forest. They're all kind of the same, whatever, but they're all really great looking, and it's how they execute it that matters. And in this case here, I just really enjoy how this just, number one, it's gray. So let's talk about that here. So I think we should talk about color here, because for the most part, Venom is black with splashes of white to make him pop and stand out. So with this base here, we're getting black and white together. We're getting gray. And so that kind of helps with the tone of the piece, literally and figuratively in this case. And it's a great balance, because it helps kind of keep moving your eye around. And likewise, you can see there's different puddles of different types of blacks to, again, help weather the base. Whether that's meant to be or not, I don't know, but there's all these nice little different shades that help pop up and add a lot more dimension to it. And I'm also a big fan of this brick pile over here behind him. It's like a section of a building that's just slowly falling apart. And it's also, likewise, kind of defying gravity purposefully. It's kind of leaning back and doing its own thing, and you can see it's basically going to fall over like any second if it was in real life. So it kind of mimics what we're seeing with all the symbiote bits that are in him, you know, and it adds a nice little bit of verticality to help keep the eye moving like it would be if we were looking at the top of the upper body of this Venom piece here. So yeah, you guys can see it now slowly rotating around. It's really a knockout piece. Like, this thing is gorgeous from every angle. I can't get over how good this piece looks. Again, this is done by Caesar and Alderton. Those two guys are just masters of doing the stuff for Diamond Select here. I mean, it's rare that we see any pieces I don't like from them. And, you know, one of the things that the piece kind of reminds me of a little bit also is the Mr. Sinister piece that they did a while ago. I'm going to be referencing again in another video as well. But they did a Mr. Sinister piece where he was like just enormous, giant upper body, but little tiny head. And if I was going to nitpick anything about this piece, I would say that I think Eddie's head might be having similar things. You know, I don't want to say he's a pea brain, kind of small head dude, but yeah, the head might be a little bit smaller, but that really doesn't matter with these pieces. That's not really what they're going for, and it's very much in the style of what those two guys do, of what those two artists typically do with their statues. So, you know, I'm okay with it, and with Venom here, it doesn't really matter because he's so enormous and just defying reality and gravity and physics and really everything out there. So, you know what, it kind of works for him. I'm totally fine with that. That's what they want to do with it. It definitely works for me. And as a whole, top to bottom, this piece is really working for me. I'm going to say, again, like, I believe this is going to be my favorite piece, one of my top favorites of all time from Diamond, because every angle I look at it, it's just amazing. Like, man, I don't know how I've managed to wait this long not having this in my collection, but this one's not going to leave it anytime soon. This is going to be one of the permanent installations in my display. If you want to pick up this Venom for yourself, go ahead and check out my affiliate links in the description below. I'm going to have a few places you can pick it up, and I really recommend that you do. And hey, if you use any of those links that I'm supplying with you, it helps support this YouTube channel at no extra cost to you. So one last time, that's our look at Diamond Select's Marvel Gallery PVC diorama statue of Venom. And what an amazing Venom. What a great take on this classic character. There's so many Venom pieces of merchandise out there, but this one really did strive to be something different, and it has absolutely succeeded. This is a masterpiece of a statue. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. If you just buy one Diamond statue this year, this is the one to get. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.